Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with it another fascinating evening of intense racing action in the one and only iRacing official GTE Sprint Series as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and available on what is that PC platform. This is the series which is all about the GT Endurance class machine. The machines which have been retired from real life racing as of 2023, but these cars live on in the memory of the simulator and they're some of the finest racing machines you can expect to see out on the circuit week in, week out on the iRacing simulator, and in the past years in real life they're the roar of their engines and absolutely unrestricted their glory. But with it being another week, we're here for the continuation of the 2025 Season 2 campaign, and another top split broadcast awaits you this evening as we take a look at some racing action from week 10 of 12, and we're in the US at the circuit of the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca in the fine West Coast state of California, and what a circuit we've got in store. Spanning 2.23 miles and 11 corners, this circuit is known best for its corkscrew chicane, but amongst all of its sweeping corners, its heavily cambered corners and its short straights, is a circuit where track position is absolutely key, and to do well here you need to qualify well and then also have a smart piece of strategy on your hands. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this broadcast live from circuit side, and as we get ready to go racing again in another top split broadcast, well in the commentary booth you have myself, Paul TX11 Walsh, also known as Britain Split, depending on what media you follow me on, and you're tuning in right now via YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX11TX or 30 Paul Walsh and you can tune in there. As we get ready to go racing once again, while scheduled for today in our regular 1900 GMT, that's Greenwich Mean Time slot, all 30 Universal Coordinate Time at UTC, is as follows. Qualifying is currently underway in the closed qualifying session, after which in approximately 3 minutes time we'll be heading to the grid for our one and only race this evening, and that'll be at 10 past 7 this evening, 45 minutes of racing action, and well, it's going to be absolutely brilliant to see who is going to be roaring their way through to victory. But as we head into today, a quick recap of the season so far and what we've still got lying in wait, and as we can see, well, it's week number 10. 3 weeks remain, including today, and after today we'll be heading to the Nürburgring for week number 11. The Nürburgring combined, or the Gesamtstrecke, on Wednesday the 28th of May will be on our off-normal scheduled slot, and then we will be making our way back to the United States of America for the conclusion of week 12 of 12 on Friday the 6th of June at the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle. And you may be noticing there that we have switched from the Wednesday slot we originally provisioned all the way back to Friday, and it's great news, ladies and gentlemen. We are able to bring you the regular slot, what will be the 1900 GMT or UTC slot on the Friday of that week, and that's will bring the curtain down. Goodness me, I'm losing my voice and stumbling over my words. This hasn't been a great start, but I'm sure we can improve on there. But as we get ready to go racing then, well, we've had an absolutely brilliant array of circuits so far this season, and we've still got more to come. But coming on to our circuit for today, well, of course, we are in the Monterey County, between Monterey and Salinas, the two towns which this circuit sits between, and the US state of California. Well, there's only one WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca, and this circuit is a circuit that has withstood the test of time and many a noise complaint of its local residents. 11 corners, some major elevation changes, and right at the core is the legendary Corkscrew chicane of turns 8A and 8B, which will see drivers drop for an 18-metre plunge from apex to apex. But the entire lap is also a thriller, with very little width to the circuit, but plenty of heavy braking zones, plenty of camber corners, and therefore it's all about carrying momentum and being absolutely cool, calm and collected as you come. But who's going to come away victorious today? As we say a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their simulator, but also the fantastic track mats that come with it. Before we go racing, of course, we've got to have some rules. Rules-wise, setups are open setups with fuel loads restricted to 50%. They'll mandate a pit stop for fuel in the race, and changing tyres is entirely optional. Race-wise, the grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently ongoing and come to its conclusion. The race itself shall commence via a rolling start, with drivers receiving a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 16 or more instant points, and should they reach 25, they will be disqualified. But we haven't seen any disqualifications yet, and we hope not to see any today. But as we come into the late stage of the qualifying then, we've got a few drivers out there at the moment, and well, Laguna Seca is a circuit which we have previously seen has proven to be very popular with one type of machine in the GT class, and it is this machine, the BMW M8, a car that's not normally that popular at most circuits we visit season in, season out, but every time we come to Laguna Seca, the BMWs have been whipped out from their garages and their storages, and as they make the way through here, they have proven to be very fast cars, and that's been proven by the fact the provisional pole sitter currently is none other than Daniel Jozovich, who currently on pole of 1 minute 18.333, the best part of 700ths faster the Matthias Beer in the Ford GT. But it just goes to show as well, with 5 different manufacturers, the Ford, the BMW, the Porsche, the Corvette and the Ferrari, well, they are all competitive here at all the different circuits. The balance of performance being a good place, and we get to expect plenty of great racing action between all of our drivers, as we still got 2 minutes left on the clock, and we do have Jordan Shamblin there, a regular for the top split broadcast, putting himself into 4th place for 1 minute 19.053, a lovely lap there, and he's got one more lap to go here. Can he move even higher than the second row of the starting grid? Now, we do have a rather low strength of field for this week's top split broadcast. In previous weeks, it has been in excess of 3,000, but here today, we do have a strength of field of 2,198, and that may be due to the clash with the Ringmeister series, which this week is seeing BMW M8 GTs run around the Nürburgring Nordschleife. But whether we do have a conflict or not with a lower rated field, well, there's by no means going to be any absence of any great racing around here. That I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, because we have seen some fantastic racing with low I rated lobbies before, and we're going to see some plenty for racing today from all of our drivers. We've given it their all in order to try and raise the I ratings and have a good time out of the circuit. But Shamlin rolls his way over through the corkscrew there, through that plunge of the Porsche 911 RSR. We do look to some other drivers there. In fact, he's the last one on a flying lap. We do have quite a few drivers who have not set a valid lap, whether they've chosen to start from the pit lane, or essentially not leave the pit lane, I should say, in qualifying and start from the back of the field. Alternatively, they've tried to set laps, it hasn't worked out, and particularly 2 newcomers in the form of Eduardo Sanchez Dominguez and also Christian Slahaven. They have not been able to set a valid time over qualifying despite having the 2 laps at their disposal. As we do see Shamblin cross the line, does he improve from 4th place? No, he doesn't. He does improve his time, and that's where he'll stay, and that will bring qualified to a close, ladies and gents, because all the drivers who are out there, they have set their valid allowance of lap times, and we'll say those laps valid, some are not, as we do see Dan Hawthorne there, new to the grid, park it up. We also have Dan Bishop deciding to park the car up there, and all that brings qualified to a close. So it does look as though Drozovic takes pole position here, and I believe that is only his second pole position in all of these top split broadcasts that were presented. It may even be his first. In fact, I'm going to need to start taking statistics rather than relying on memory, because my memory ain't as great as it used to be. But the point being that Drozovic, in the end, taking that pole position by just over 700 over Matthias Beer, and the Ford GT trial will be joined on that front row with row number 2 going to Christophe Dubois and Jordan Shamblin there. And well, we have 4 different manufacturers in our first 4 spots of the grid. We have not seen that in all the time we've been running these top split broadcasts, and that goes to show you that we've got a whole medley of drivers here, and the only thing we're missing is a Ferrari from the top 5. The highest placed Ferrari will be starting 15th as we do head to the grid. So here's how our drivers line up then for what is week number 10's top split broadcast in the 1900 GMT or UTC slot on this fine Friday, the 23rd of May 2025 at Laguna Seca. And in the iRacing official GTE Sprint Series for this week in the 2025 Season 2 campaign, it is going to be none other than Daniel Drozovic, who takes pole position there. The Lithuanian driver taking pole for 1 minute 18.333 and just outrunning Melazani Racing's Matthias Beer, who will line up alongside him at second on the grid. From the German, it'll then be the Frenchman, Christophe Dubois, a regular in these top split races, and we look forward to seeing what he can do for that second row of the grid. He's normally very fast off the blocks there, and he'll be in the Corvette C8R, and he'll be in the company of John Shamblin, our Porsche 911 RSR driver, highest position one there for the United States, and in number 6, he'll be starting 4th there and looking to move forward. But he's got to be aware of the fact he'll have Pablo Garcia Alvarez, who'll be just behind him, starting on the 3rd row of the grid, the IBM driver there in the number 11, and he'll be in the company of the BMW M8 of Jose Caldito Gallardo, and the driver there in the number 12, having a great qualifying performance, and I believe this might be the first time we've seen him on the grid in the top split, and therefore we're very eagerly going to see how far forward he can move. On row number 4, we'll have starting in 7th place Riley Pogue in the Corvette C8R, and we'll also have alongside him none other than Jose Martins, and Martins back again with a BMW M8, which we previously did see at Road Atlanta. It didn't quite work out for Martins there, but we hope for a better day today and a great qualifying performance as well. And then completing your top 10 will be Wesley Bryce of the Corvette and Dan Bishop in the number 9 Porsche 911, where he takes 10th place on the grid. Behind them, starting on row number 6, it'll be the pairing of Timothy Parker-Russell, and he'll be in the company of Thomas Appelin. And those two, we've seen them previously on the grid, the Corvette and Porsche drivers respectively. They'll both be trying to hunt a top 10 finish here today. But behind the Flanders Racing Team driver from Belgium, you do have the Spaniard of none other than Alex Saez. And Saez new to the grid for what is this week, and we look forward to see what he can do in the number 14 Porsche 911. Alongside him, starting 14th, will be Branislav Holika, and I believe Holika decided to start from the pit lane of the Corvette, so we'll see him demoted to the back of the grid when they do start to pull away. And then we do come to row number 8, and that's where you'll see a pair of Ferraris in the form of Dan Schillebier and Marco Giuliani, and then we will have behind them on row Number 9, the combination of Dan Hawthorne. I believe that is Hawthorne there, unless I'm mistaken. Dan Hawthorne it is indeed, and he'll be in the company of none other than Alexander Kumor. Completing your top 20 is going to be the pairing of the Italian there, and that'll be none other than Capodenico, and we'll have Max Chambers there for the United Kingdom, a regular start in 20th. Qualifying really not proven to be Chambers' forte, and he'll be hoping to move a bit further forward when we do go racing. And then line up on the penultimate row of the grid, we've got an absolutely packed field here today. On row number 11, it is going to be Glenn Harrison in the company of none other than Mike Wongsorostro. And then we have on the final row of the grid the combination of Eduardo Sanchez Dominguez, and then it will be none other than the man who didn't get a valid lap in, and he'll be starting last but not least, the Scandinavian driver of Christian Slehaven, and he'll be starting 24th of our 24 drives in the number 24, so he's the lowest rated driver, but iRated is just one thing. Qualifying is just one part of the story, and you can imagine he'll be absolutely eager to try and prove otherwise when we do get to the green flag racing. Now, as the drivers all make the way through, we do say hello there to Vilu in the YouTube chat, and indeed, don't be shy, feel free to say hi, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't want to be bitten, well, don't worry, we're not going to bite here in the YouTube chat. The only biting you're going to see in this broadcast is our drivers biting hard on their carbon ceramic brake discs. And as we get ready to go, do let us know who you're cheering on, if you're cheering on a particular driver, or if you're just here to see which cars are going to come away victorious. And well, we have seen typically over the course of this season, indeed for all seasons we covered and past seasons before we played this top split broadcast, that we have normally seen it has been the Porsche 911 versus the Corvette C8R. Well, the Corvettes have proved to be the stronger car back in season 1 of this year, but in season 2 the Porsches have come up a little bit and the Corvettes have now got their equal match. But at certain circuits, other manufacturers really come alive, and fancy that it is the first time over the whole season where we have not seen a Porsche or a Corvette on that front row. But what we are seeing is a BMW and a Ford, and as Matthias Beer and Daniel Jadzovic make the way down to the last couple of corners, it'll be Jadzovic to take us to the green as the safety car peels away, and he'll be the one who dictates the pace. And as he makes his way out the final corner, he goes immediately. It's the classic Laguna Seca start, and Jadzovic gets us underway for 45 minutes of racing here in week number 10 of season 2 of 2025. Matthias Beer's with it as they come over the line, and down towards turn number 2 they go, but with the staggered field, 3 wide there almost. They make the way to break, and it's going to be Pogue versus Martins versus Gallardo, and Gallardo in the end going defensive there for 6th place as they come through, and Pogue cutting back there as they make the way towards turn number 2. Through the right-hander and in towards 3 they go, and the Napa Racing Corvette here gets us tapped, and it sends both Martins and Pogue around, and it's heartbreak again for Martins, much like at Road Atlanta. But as the field staggers its way through, I believe we also had Schillebeer making his way out wide there. You can see him briefly rejoining. He'll cut his way back into the Ferrari very shortly as he does so he's taking a bit of an adventure as he does rejoin, but there's more to come here as Wesley Bryce battling with Dan Bishop. Bishop falling backwards there behind the orange Corvette as Bishop and Parker Russell both run very wide there at turn at number 5. Up the hill they go, and Parker Russell now looking up the inside here. Can he find it? No, he doesn't. He backs off as they go in towards the left-hander, but going all the way up the hill in towards the Corkscrew chicane. There's plenty of gravel thrown across the circuit, and this is going to be a straightforward move for Parker Russell. Go up the inside there, and Bishop in the end not having the momentum and has to lose out. But as they come down now in towards Randy Curve at turn number 9, the long downhill left-hander here, which is heavily off camber. You can feel the car being pulled right on the right-hand side, and as he roars his way into turn number 10, well, behind we do have the pink Porsche of Alex Sayers there in 10th place. He's had a good start, getting 3 places since the start and making some great progress as they come towards the end of lap number 1. Because after one lap of racing, it's Daniel Jadzovic in the lead by 7/10 over Matthias Beer. Beer in the Ford GT is second. He's got the pressure of Christophe Dubois in the Corvette. Here comes a Cube Racing Machine, looking up the inside, but the Frenchman decides not to go for it there, trying to be brave, but not brave enough to go all in on the brakes yet. Jordan Shamblin holding on to 4th, but he's under great pressure from Garcia Alvarez and Condito Gallardo as they roar the way in towards turn number 3. And then we do have Wesley Bryce in 7th ahead of Timothy Parker Russell. The battle there over the 2 Corvettes that leads ahead of Dan Bishop in 9th, and Alex Sayers completes your top 10 with Thomas Applin in 11th. Big gains made meanwhile by one Ferrari driver, 4 places gained, and that's Marco Guglielmi. He's moved all the way out the order from a 16th place start in the Turtle Racing Machine. A great start for the Ferrari 488 GTE driver, and well, this Ferrari, we definitely know it's one of the more sensitive GTEs out there, but if you get it to work, it can work a treat. But as they make the way on through, we're looking further back. It's Jose Martins looking up the inside of Sanchez Dominguez, goes up the inside there, the Camel at Porsche, and all the way through the left-hander at turn number 5 he goes, the Calsonic Machine, and that's a throwback there to, I do believe, the Australian touring car days of the Nissan Skyline R32. I believe it was a Japanese touring car initially, the JGTC, but it made its way to Australia as well. It's had many guys and a very popular car over its extensive history. But meanwhile, going from history back to the present, that's a change of place. That's Riley Pogue in the Napa Racing Corvette, as we do see a big lock up there from Slay Harvard, who started from the back of the grid, but right now making progress. We have unfortunately lost Branislav Holika, who didn't quite make it to the grid, so therefore we are down to 23 runners in this race early on. But drivers continue to put on the pressure and continue to charge on as best they possibly can. But as they do, well, of course, the thing about Laguna Seca is very quickly it now starts to become more tactical racing, a very what is limited and pack-based racing here, albeit a big move coming from Shelbeer as he looks up the inside. And the lovely green Ferrari there making it nice and smooth up the inside of Slay Harvard through the final corner, now up into 20th place, but he's got plenty of paces to recover given the fact he started 15th before he heads off at turn number 3. But from then we've got a change of second place here, as that is going through turn number 3 into 4 and out of 4 in fact into 5, and that is Christophe Dubois who's moved up into second place ahead of Matthias Beer. So Beer falling backwards to place there and started second, with Dubois feels as though he's got a bit more race pace this early on. We do know that the Corvette is the strongest race pace car, all things being equal between driver and machine. The point being the Corvette has the better tyre longevity compared to its peers, and therefore we are expecting that Dubois will gradually move forward in this race based on pace. We see a run wide there from none other than the Porsche of Garcia Alvarez. Up the inside it goes to Caldito Gallardo, and that's going to be another move there for the BMW M8 driver. And here comes Wesley Bryce now, looking for an opportunity to be right aboard the dashboard of the number 7. Well, down through the left hand of Rainy Kirby goes, and in towards 10. You can see up there Bryce not as confident with attacking the corner compared to his rival, making sure the car doesn't stagger out too wide. He doesn't perhaps have as much rotation built into the car with regards to the setup. Sometimes drivers we run in a little bit less rear anti-roll bar, and in doing so that enables the car to feel a little bit less sensitive on the rear. It invokes understeer on corner exit rather than oversteer, which you have a lot of rear anti-roll bar. You'll find the car very stiff on the rear end, and that's what causes it to oversteer. Whereas you make that rear anti-roll bar quite loose, what you end up doing is essentially saying to the rear of the car, right, go wherever the front of the car points, and therefore the rear of the car actually understeers when you get the power down. But going in towards turn number 3 right now, Bryce looking a bit close here, and perhaps a bit more confident in the low speed corners because he can absolutely max out the throttle, but it's the medium speed corners where he perhaps has not got as much confidence with the car, because at medium speed the car just wants to point in the straight line. We're coming down towards turn number 5 they go, and as he does, just staying in the toe there, and Alvarez right now looking to try and put some pressure on Gallardo, and you can see all 3 drivers here, they are gradually inching towards Chamblin, who is in fourth at the moment in the number 6. He's losing the top 3 gradually at Chamblin, but I can imagine here it is all going to be a game of revealing your hand at the latest point in the day. We are only 5 minutes into this race, of course. We've got a long way to go, and will there be a return move here from Bryce looking up the inside of Alvarez into the corkscrew? And the answer is no, there won't. He's too far back. Riley Pogue, meanwhile, battling with the Ferrari there of Wangasoto, and as they come out of the corner and up the hill they go through turn number 6 and on to the Rahul straight of 7. Was powering the way along here. The Napa Racing Corvette's going to be on the inside, but the Ferrari's no slouch on the brakes. It's going to be too wide on entry, but are they going to be too wide on exit is the question, and the answer is no. A lovely move there from Pogue, gains another place, and now up into 16th place, but still more to be claimed. Coming on down there through turn number 9, and as he does so, Dan Horford just up the road in the John Player Special BMW M8. And goodness me, I'm getting flashbacks here to the days of Ayrton Senna running the John Player Special Formula 1 machine, but that's not going to be a special moment there. That's going to be a sad moment for Hawthorne, who runs wide out of the final corner, takes to the gravel, rejoins, but loses 2 places, the price of 1 mistake at turn number 11. And Glenn Harrison and Jose Martins both up places now, and Harrison under pressure, Martins up the inside, but something tells me that Glenn Harrison might have already predicted that Martins was going to come back through and decided, you know what, he qualified so well compared to me, I'm just going to let him go at this point and not put him under too much pressure. But it looks as though by doing so, Martins has put himself under his own pressure as they come through turn number 3 and up towards 4. And the fact we saw Martins almost take a bit of a rallycross line there coming out of turn number 2. Didn't need to do that. And Harrison just watching on here, and I think thinking right now, Jose, just calm down. I'm not going to challenge you. I want us to pull away together. But the problem is that right now, Dan Horford's got a bit of a situation because he's got a Corvette breathing down his neck. You see Pogue there putting off racing line, trying to put some mental pressure onto the BMW driver. It doesn't quite work out as they come out of the corner and in towards turn 6 they go. And the thing here for the Napa Racing Corvette is you can't go too wide into turn 6 unless you're fully alongside of the exit of 5. It's how tight it gets towards that apex with the depression in the road as well, something that's perhaps not visible on the exterior cameras. As they come up the rise in towards turn 8, well, the one thing this BMW does have over that Corvette is a monstrous acceleration of the straights, but it's not going to stop Pogue looking around the outside here. He switches one way, then the other. Riley Pogue trying to go all the way around the outside. That's very brave. He's still there, but in the end, thinks better of it and backs off as they make the way through. But what a lovely attempt from Pogue. We jump on board here. GT. Looks one way, then the other, snaps on the brake. And my goodness, what a lovely dive to the inside of the number 8 driver. And Pogue roars his way into 15th place there. Well, it might not be battling for a top 10 right now, but he's fighting his way through. And Pogue is not pulling any punches as they come through. But what's this? Is Hawthorne coming back at him in the BMW? No, he's not. He's too far back. It looks like he's having a good run, but in the end, not quite close enough to challenge. Meanwhile, whilst all this is going on, back at the very front of the field, we are going to get some replays of the race start shortly, ladies and gentlemen. I assure you, we will eventually get to them, albeit it's taking us some time, because right now our two leaders are very close together. Only 3 tenths between Dubois and Djordjevic, and well, Dubois might have started this race in 3rd place. He already made his way up into 2nd ahead of Beer, and now he's all over the back of Djordjevic as the BMW M8 driver. He's not enjoying the pace that he's previously had here. And surprisingly, in fact, we are not seeing the BMWs prove to be as popular at Laguna Seca, firstly, and that could be because of the clash with the Ringmeister series, which runs the BMW M8 specifically in an all-single-mate GTE category. But the point is as well, the BMWs we have here today, they're not as strong as what we've previously seen. We previously saw the BMW was in a world of its own here compared to the other cars, but right now it seems as though the BMW has been brought right back in to the balance of performance, and what it's lovely to see here, 4 different manufacturers all in the top 4 spots, and as they come onto another lap, well, right now, 3 manufacturers contest in the lead. They've got a bit of traffic in front of them as well. 23rd place runner, what is Carlos Capodico? And as they roar the way in towards turn number 3 right now, well, the Ferrari driver will see this coming. He'll be aware of the blue flags, and I think he'll be getting ready to step aside because it's going to be very difficult to traffic manage otherwise. But coming out of turn number 3, and in towards the right end of turn 4 they go, and as they do, Djordjevic then runs a little bit wide off of turn 4. He just does not look happy in this car as they come through. We're dealing with a bit of dirty air there off of the 23rd place runner. That could explain why he understood slightly wide of apex at turn 4. This BMW front engine rear wheel drive compared to all the other machines which are mid engine rear wheel drive, so you would understand it natively will have a bit more understeer in its front end compared to its rivals. But right now Djordjevic does not seem happy in this car at all. In the number 10 machine, we did a brilliant job of putting it on pole, but the qualifying lap we felt very comfortable with that. But the race pace right now, unless he's got a problem with the car, perhaps he's picked up some degradation on one of the tyres, perhaps a bit too aggressive the opening couple laps and overheated a tyre, which the BMW can be a bit sensitive to overheating, not like the Ferrari, but it comes close. And as he comes down in towards turn number 10, he's not happy at all. Further back, that's Wesley Bryce up the inside there into a rainy curve. Goodness me, the cameraman there getting a lovely shot side by side between himself and Gallardo as they come through turn 10. Bryce runs out wide, and as he does so, he rejoins, and immediately Gallardo says, I know what you're going to try and do. He tries to come to the inside off and goes too deep under braking, and that sends Bryce on through. A lovely move there from Bryce, just outwitting Gallardo into a mistake, and Gallardo had everything in his hands, and in the end everything slipped out like water as they roar the way across the timeline. Here comes Parker Russell up the inside, and as the Corvette driver looks at the move there in the black and yellow Corvette, looking like one of the TF Sport machines, under braking they go, too wide into the hairpin. As they make their way out the Andretti hairpin, it is going to be Parker Russell who gains that place, and to be Parker Russell, they're having to do a lot of the braking. I can imagine the front brakes of that Corvette right now will be feeling quite warm, but he gets it stopped in time. Further back, meanwhile, we had a change, in fact further up the field I should say, we've had a change from 2nd place. Matthias Beer now back ahead of Dubois. As Dubois had a mistake of some description, something tells me he may have, and that's what's led to him falling back to 3rd place, but he's not going to be out of the hunt yet as the Ford GT now moves forward here in the lovely coloration there was the deep blue purple with the white stripes, and as he makes his way down towards turn number 8, or up towards that I should say, the highest point of the circuit, well, Beer now looking to go on the offensive, but from them we look back to Coldito Gallardo, and behind him you can see the run of what is Dan Bishop a bit further back. The point being here, the BMW driver all over the back of Timothy Parker Russell, and I believe he's going to fall back a little bit further, gets very close down to break into the Corkscrew, but the Corvette driver gets the better run, naturally so for the concertina effect. And as they come towards the end of the 11th minute, and what is the 8th lap of racing, well, these drivers right now push each other onwards, but the fighting is not giving up any time soon. Indeed, the intensity is only going to rise, as we do have the Porsche up the road there of Garcia Alvarez, who's being reeled into this pack. But riding on board, then we're number 12 driver for a brief moment as he heads across that timeline. Let's listen to the lovely roar of that V8. Now down into the braking zone for turn number 2 he goes, and as he does so, Gallardo here will close, and look at the body language on this BMW. He's got so much rotation on that front end. A lovely bit of setup here on that BMW in order to be able to carry on through there. Even in the dirt here, it's almost as if he can just point the car wherever he wants it to go and blast it on through. Now this will come at the compromise of something else in the car. What he's compromised, I'm not quite sure of as of yet, but he's running very happily behind Russell as he roars his way up towards turn number 5. And right now in that dirt here, the dirt here is not phasing as he takes a lovely runs the apex there at turn number 5. He's going to run the full distance out. Well, that's how you carry the speed. You've got to keep the throttle pinned as he heads into turn 6, gets close, but too close there. Both drivers run a little bit wide. It's going to be a mistake from Timothy Parker Russell. Up the hill they go, and this surely has got to be a change of position. Well, Parker Russell in the end decides to back off. He doesn't want to fight it up the road straight, and it's going to be Gallardo now up into 7th place, but this will buy Garcia Alvarez a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of time to walk away as they head down to Rainy Curve. But goodness me, Gallardo there running almost off the circuit going through a Rainy Curve on the entry curve. You don't want to run out that wide anytime, but he runs all the way to track limits and then some. Well, in the end, the BMW driver playing with fate, but who can blame him when he's giving it like this, when he's absolutely giving it everything he can. Well, right now he's trying to make progress. His next target will be Alvarez, but from them, going back to 3rd place, man, and that is Christophe Dubois. Has he got damage on the car? That front bumper doesn't look to be seated correctly on that Corvette. I think he might have been in a bit of a shunt because it is seemingly coming away. Well, the point being he's been passed by Jordan Shamblin. That is not to discredit Jordan Shamblin, the fact he's up into 3rd. Well done to him to get into the Porsche 911, but we would expect Dubois to be running away. We need to take a look back at some moments that have happened and what exactly has happened to Christophe Dubois. Well, let's take a look back, ladies and gentlemen, and see how he made the move was made on him by Matthias Beer. Now, as he came into the corner there, you can see the front bumper already hanging loose from Dubois' car. Now, we don't know when he's had a tuck with the wall. If he's had a tuck with the wall, I can imagine that might be on the start-finish straight. Perhaps he's turned in a bit too aggressively and he's hit the barrier there on the start finish straight, but we've got no idea. We haven't got anything to explain what's happened to him. So Christophe Dubois, for all his efforts, now really losing out as we return to live at racing. I can imagine he won't want to come into the pits until he's going to make his necessary pit stop for fuel, because he won't want to spend any more time in the pit lane than he needs to. Well, as we come back to your live pictures, definitely a surprise there and not a welcome one to be sure, particularly if you're a fan of the Cuba racing driver, but even if you're not, in the fact we were seeing the Corvette trying to make his way through the field, and in the end it's all gone wrong and backwards for him. But right now it's not going backwards anymore for Riley Pogue up the inside there. Thomas Appelin, who in the end given the elbow, and Appelin not too happy about that. I can imagine there's a bit of contact between them, but Pogue moves up into 11th place for what is all that battering, and now coming back to Dubois. Well, from one Corvette to the other, he's going to be asked to pass the baton over to Wesley Bryce, but Bryce right now is getting a firm no from Dubois, who wants to try and hold on. But I think it's going to be one of those situations where Bryce very shortly will be saying, I wasn't asking, Christophe, I'm coming through shortly. But Dubois is saying back to it, you know what, Wesley, you're going to have to prove you've got the pace to get past me. I may be wounded, but by no means am I just going to let you walk over me. But here they come then up towards turn number 5. Onto the brakes they go, and the orange machine of Bryce makes about the inside. Dubois fighting hard, but in the end at 9, when the fight's over, he's going to try and cut back here and get the run. He'll pull out on the toe. He's going to look for it to turn 6, but he's not close enough to go fully alongside, and in the end has to let it go. So Dubois falls back to 5th, Wesley Bryce up into 4th, but Dubois is not giving in, and that's the racer's spirit there for the Cube Racing driver from France. He is not wilting under the pressure, and he's trying to limp that Corvette to the pit lane when it needs to go to the pits. So I can imagine if he can hold on for another 3 laps, we may see a huge undercut strategy play out for Dubois with the repair work. But looking a bit further down the order here, as we do see the donut machine from the Simpsons of Alex Sayers under pressure from the Ferrari 488 of Mike Wong-Sorosto. And as the Ferrari driver looks up the inside here, he looks once, he doesn't think about it again because it's too short of a run into turn 6. But the Ferrari right now definitely looking a little bit menacing as it makes its way up the hill. We ride aboard the dashboard here of the number 19 car, and well, this is the highest placed Ferrari at the moment. We have had some misfortune for some of the other Ferraris, including for Dan Schillebeer, who we did see have that off at turn number 3 right at the race start. And well, as I try to make the way down, well, Wong-Sorosto right now staying close, but not close enough to try and think about a move on Sayers. But he'll just keep putting the pressure on here. This Ferrari, not the strongest at Laguna Seca compared to some of its rivals. It is a car because of how picky it is in terms of its operating window. Laguna Seca is one of those circuits which will very quickly push a car out of its operating window as he gets very close there to the back of the Porsche. A lovely run through the hairpin and different approaches to the corner. Sayers not as confident on the approach to the hairpin apex. I think cognizant of the sausage curve. Wong-Sorosto there looks to the outside as they come down, and right now he looks one way then the other. But the problem is when you're up against the Porsche 911, you've got to be able to beat it on the straights, because under braking the Porsche is going to beat you every single time in equal drivers, because of the fact that Porsche just gives you so much confidence under heavy brake loads into hairpins. As they come through turn number 3, Wong-Sorosto again close, not close enough, pulls out the line, makes his way back in, really trying to get into the head of Sayers. Sayers makes a little bit of a ham sandwich there coming through turn number 4, but Wong-Sorosto as well, by taking that approach, I think also making a mistake of his own doing as he weaves, bobs left and right once again, and that is simply, I think he's trying to get into the head of Sayers, but as he makes out the corner, well, right now not getting close, in fact falling backwards, and he's going to have to reset and go again because that gap has opened up quite tremendously as he tucks his way through turn number 6. He's pushing hard, but right now as much as he's pushing, it's not enough to bring down the defence of the Porsche that's holding on to 14th place. Well, with that, ladies and and gentlemen, we've got an opportunity to take a look at some moments from early on in the race, and we start off with the lap 1 instance, beginning with the contact between Riley Pogue and Jose Martins. This was coming out of the hairpin in towards turn 3, and Pogue turns across here, Martins on his inside, and the two cab are coming together, and we did see Dan Chilabir then follow him. He was tapped there by the number 17 car of Marco Giuliani, and that explains why he ended up into the gravel trap as well, albeit all three drivers able to make the way out there eventually. We then also did see on the open lap a bit of a moment for Capodenico, and we saw the Ferrari driver here make his way out of turn number 10 in towards 11, and as he came under braking, what exactly happened? Went a bit deep, ran a bit deep, and then found his way back into the circuit once again, so a bit of a frustrating moment. A bit subsequently later on lap number 4, we had a further incident for Chilabir, and this was coming out of turn number 2 in towards turn 3, under a bit of pressure at the time from one of our Porsche drivers behind, goes into the right-hander, and as he does so, powers on through, runs a bit wide there and just tries to catch the car, but does just about. And we also did have a bit of a moment for Christian Slahaven, as we did have him make his way down. He was in the Porsche that was chasing at Chilabir in that previous replay. This was down into turn number 2, and I believe as he made his way into the corner, runs a bit deep, car goes straight on, and as he does, will rejoins, but I think a bit of frustration there, and will subsequently, I believe, retire from the race due to some sort of incident of a description, and we don't quite have the replay of what happened to him after that. We're coming back to Elias Racing. Well, we predicted we'd be seeing some early pit stops today, and we've got 2 of them. In the fact, we've got Matthias Beer in, as we see Bishop make his way past, and there is Beer, and Christophe Debar as well is into the pit lane for repair work to the car, and also for a splash and dash of fuel. Well, that repair work is going to take some time, but it'll look to get the front bumper readjusted onto that car. But where does Beer come back into all of the running as a result of this? Because he was running in second, and he was chasing down Jozorovic. The gap between the two of them was less than a second when he came into the pit lane, and Matthias Beer buys himself a 9th place spot in the running order right now. The next car up the road from him is Jose Martins, who is 4.5 seconds up the road. You can see him there in the distant picture, and Riley Pogue is 4.7 seconds behind. So a lovely bit of strategy for Matthias Beer, and right now, if Jozorovic does have a race engineer who's spotted for him, they will be calling the BMW M8 driver in for the simple reason they need him to cover off Beer, because if Beer can get the pace down right now and outpace Jozorovic to Jozorovic's pit stop, we would imagine there is going to be a swing on strategy here, and this Ford GT could suddenly make its way, the Hoonigan machine could make its way into lead of this race in terms of track position when all pit stops are done. As we do say hello to a massive Ford GT fan there, so bottle job, but hold the phone as it's a side-by-side battle. Chambers up the inside there, as Saez not really putting up too much of a fight versus the number 3, and Chambers gaining another place, having started all the way down the 20th place spot. Well, that's the one thing that's always happened for Max Chambers. This is not being unfair to Max. He does have a lot of trouble in qualifying normally, but the thing is, when he has trouble in qualifying, he puts some spectacular battles up and down through the field as he tries to always make his way back into the top 10. So we're not upset for the fact he's trying to cut his way through the field, but we've got to feel for him with the fact that we would love to see him start inside the top 10 and potentially chase down the top 5 at some point. But still, well, there you go, as the Concorde Racing driver, the Porsche 911 RSR, continues to make his way through the running order, up into 13th place, at least on circuit. But we'll wait to see where he fits into the running order when all the pit stops are complete. I suspect he will be within the top 15. He might be at the very bottom end of it, but still enjoying the running out there, and more to come. Well, as he heads his way down the start-finish straight and onwards towards turns 1 and 2, we look from here into the top 10, and this is Timothy Parker Russell, who after passing Dan Bishop, well, Bishop is still right there with him, 6 tenths is the gap. So when we say he's right there, there's enough breathing room between the two of them. They're not trying to battle over the same bit of tarmac, but the point being that right now the Corvette C8R driver is continuing to move forward, chasing down Pablo Garcia Alvarez, but Alvarez matching him for pace. The gap between the two of them, 1.4 seconds, and not really changing as into the pit lane out my Conte booth window is none other than Marco Giuliani in the Ferrari 488. Well, the Ferrari had a bit of difficulty in the opening stage of the race, but it's into the pit, being serviced. I suspect he'll be back out there very shortly. But as we do continue to watch Parker making his way on through turn number 10 and in towards 11. Well, this time he doesn't make his way into the pit lane. What about Jose Martins, who's made his way all the way backwards to 8? No, he stays out as well. Matthias Beer is the next car down the road, and the stationary time for Beer was only 9.3 seconds. Max Chambers, he's had a pit stop, and in fact, by having his pit stop, it is a 6.85 second pit stop time, so a good starting pit stop there for Chambers, and you can imagine he'll be looking to try and make a little bit further progress as he roars his way on around the circuit. As he does so, looking to pick up those places as much as possible. Sayers and Wongso Ostro also behind him, but both yet to take their pit stops, and that lovely black, white and red Ferrari with the Italian flag imprinted right through the middle of it. Well, Wongso Ostro right now getting close there to back of Sayers, but too close for comfort. The car goes around there, and I can imagine that is over-rotation and over-retarding of the car as well. He's had to come down through the gearbox very aggressively, and not expecting the Porsche to be so slow on the apex, and in the end the rear brakes of that Ferrari locking up earlier than the front brakes and releasing earlier as a result, and it just kicks the rear round because the rear comes loose before the front unlocks itself, and in doing so, that's where you get those sudden spins of the car there. Some people like to refer to them as also what is known as an auto spin in a way, in the fact that sometimes it's unexplainable, but the idea is essentially the rear brakes and the rear tyres are starting to move faster than the front tyres, and the rear of the car carries all the weight forward with it as those tyres release themselves, and that's what leads to the car having the moment where the car goes completely around outside of your control. But it's one downside to running mid-engine rear-wheel drive, such as the Ferrari, in the fact you have to balance the rear weight of the car around because the centre of the mass is behind the driver, not in front of the driver, unlike the BMW M8. Albeit the M8, they do try to put the position as close as possible to the centre of the car, so sometimes it's referred to as front mid-engine drive, in the fact you have the engine in the front, but it's brought behind the front axle as much as possible. But that's all on the technical side there, and we won't go into too much technical detail at this time. But as we do have Corkscrew trying to now go hunting after Dan Schillebeer, battling with a fellow Ferrari, where it's going to be Ferrari and Ferrari action, the battle of the two prancing horses in due course, we suspect, as we now come all the way back up to Parker Russell versus Bishop versus Martins, as they make the way into the second half of this race. Then we are on lap number 17. We're going to get plenty more laps before all is said and done. But Martins here close. Can he look for an opportunity to turn 5? And the answer is no, he can't, but what he can do is he can stay close. They're coming out to the corner and look for the run up the Russell straight in towards the Corkscrew. So into turn 6 he goes, through the left-hander, and as he does, takes a little bit of grass where you can see the car fighting with him there to turn in. He would use as much circuit width as possible, but I think the front right tyre saying, look, I'm on the gravel, I can't exactly just turn in, and Martin's saying, no, you will. It's not a question of you want to. This car is going through the corner as they all negotiate. None other than the Ferrari there of Campo Dinoco as they roar the way through. The 22nd place runner falling a lap down to more of the field, but Jose Martinez right now are really aggressive, really wrangling this BMW M8 around the circuit. You can understand why. Looking up the inside, Bishop leaves the door open, goes away on the brakes. Can he get it done in time? Well, it's going to be Bishop looking for the cut back there, but it's a bold move at Jose Martinez, and who can blame him? Another 5. He takes another spot here as now he moves forward into 7th place, and Bishop, whilst he's close, is not going to be able to counter-attack here as they come over the rise and down in towards turn number 2. Onto the brakes they go, and now Martinez will try and get 6th place back, at least out on circuit, before he does make his pit stop. He'd like to make some more progress. The thing is, he has got plenty of time to try and do so, in the fact that our stationary time for the racing today, in terms of those pit stops, is no greater than 10 seconds from what we're seeing for a good number of drivers. And why is this important? Well, it means it is a short fuel pit stop. And if you take into effect that we're not seeing much fuel going in the car, that means that you can probably stay out there in the opening stints the best part of almost 38 or so minutes of racing. And if you can do that, it means you can extend that opening stint. And if your name is Jose Martins, you want to get as many places as possible before you come into the pits, unless the driver in front of you is really costing you time. And that's what he's trying to do here. Looking further down the order, looking at Glenn Harrison, battle of Porsche and Porsche. Both drivers have yet to take a pit stop as he chased after 10th place man Thomas Appelen. And as they roar the way through left-hander at turn number 5, well, he's close, but not quite close enough at the moment, as we have had a tow to the pits for Marco Giuliani. Something's gone very wrong for the Ferrari driver. We'll try and get you a replay of what's happened there in due course, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, the Skoll driver there in the number 16 Porsche 911. Staying close to Appelen, but not close enough to really think about a move, as the WeatherTech machine that stays alive there in the 10th place spot. And coming down, they've had two very different races. Harrison starting 21st on the grid, but making progress. Meanwhile, Appelen, by comparison, only starting 2 places further back. But from both of them, oh, goodness me, what on earth has happened there? That's Jose Martins around. And where is Dan Bishop? Well, Bishop has moved onwards. I think both of them have been in some sort of altercation into the final corner, as we do see them making the way through. Can we get a quick replay to explain what's happened? And the answer is yes, we can. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what happened between Martins and Bishop. So Bishop just behind, and then Jose Martins making his way on around in towards turn number 11. Onto the brakes he goes, and as he does so, runs wide. Oh, goodness me, that is a big, big error there. And Bishop put the brakes on, and Matthias Beers squeezes on through. Beers says, I've got places to be. Meanwhile, Bishop being very conservative there and letting Martins get himself around. Well, Matthias Beer did absolutely gamble everything to do that, but you can understand why, because he feels like he needs to chase down the leading man, Daniel Jazovich, as we do see Beer making his way past our camera there. We follow him up the hill, but right now, Matthias Beer has got no patience for anybody else out on circuit other than chasing down Daniel Jazovich. And Jazovich will be wary of the fact that Beer, having taken that early pit stop, one of the first drivers to pit, essentially going for a huge undercut strategy, is the man right now on a charge. But as he roars his way out around, what an easy mistake to make for Jose Martins. We talked about earlier the fact he was opening up the circuit more and more each and every corner, using the entry curves as much as possible and dipping the outside tyres onto the grass and the gravel, and that's what happens when you do it too much. Coming into turn number 11, the car in the end, as he went to rotate it, put the brakes on, and the rear right tyre in the end just simply goes, I've got no grip here whatsoever because I'm not on tarmac, and we are going around. And Martins in the end becoming a passenger, but getting it turned around, and great awareness there from Dan Bishop to let Martins turn it around. Well, it all worked out in the end between them, but a small mistake could have been big consequences for multiple multiple drives, but it wasn't to be this time around. But the drives all continue with Riley Pogue here, picking his way past Wong Solstro, and Solstro there on the outside in towards Rady Curve, and I think making a mistake coming out the corkscrew, and Pogue just simply said, okay, if you're going to leave the door that wide open, here I come, whether you like it or not. I think once Solstro, by the time he got himself back together, then suddenly saw a Napa Racing Corvette appear on his inside. I think was thinking to himself, oh crikey, I didn't expect that to be there, and doing exactly that. Pogue right there is absolutely flying out there, albeit had quite a long pit stop, 11 seconds stationary time, so therefore he's absolutely hammering the car on around as he comes down in towards turn number 2. We should correct the statement we made from earlier regarding Max Chambers about having served his pit stop. We believe that Chambers opted to start from the pit lane, so therefore he is falsely registering as having had a pit stop already in this race, but we believe he is still yet to take a pit stop, albeit it's all the way up into 12th place. That will put him further down the order, but we will double check on that when we do see what happens. But speaking of Chambers, what's happened there? Well, he's out the camera shot and he's rejoined, and Chambers has gone round at turn number 5. Well, as soon as I mentioned the man, it seems I've cursed him, and I'm very sorry about that, Max. If you do end up watching this later, it wasn't intentional, but as he comes back on there with a lot of dirt on the tyres, he'll need to get that dirt scraped off. That will normally take at least a lap to do so, and well, it's going to be a bit of a frustrating night onwards now as he's got to try and pick up the pace, pick up the places and time he's lost. But can we get a replay as to what happened to James? Yes, we can, and here it is. So this was only months ago. Then coming into turn number 5, does he run wide out of here and the rear right tyre lights up? Well, in fact, no, the car was going completely around in their mid-apex. I think just being a bit too aggressive coming on through. High revs as well with the rear tyres. That would have caused the rear right to spin more compared to what he'd normally like, and I think that might have been the rear just started letting go. And at that point, you're a passenger in that car, particularly for a heavily cambered corner. You can be fast, you can be aggressive through there, but even a little bit too much aggression, and suddenly the car's going to say no. But coming back to live racing just in time, as we'll see a swap here between the Simpsons Porsche and the Napa Corvette, as that's going to be Pogue up another place now, and Alex Sayers for 14th place out of the circuit. He has continued to make his way through, and I suspect by the time all the pit stops are done, because we still do have out of our top 10, the vast majority have yet to pit. The only one who has pitted is Matthias Speer. By the time the pit stops are all done, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Riley Pogue in the number 8 in 8th place at the pace he's marching on at the moment, because in terms of his relative pace, he's faster than everybody minus Wesley Bryce and Jose Coldito Gallardo, the 3rd and 4th place runners. He is outpacing right now Daniel Jozowicz, your race leader, and our race leader, as he's making his way on through, his pace has actually fallen off a little bit. Now, I wonder whether a BMW M8 driver from Lithuania is fuel saving a lot, because his pace is half a second slower than Jordan Shamblin over what's been the last lap. And can we get some time deltas on here to see exactly where the lap times have gone between them? Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. I think we might be able to see some lap time deltas. And well, there's Jozowicz's times, but what about the times of his arrival? That's the big question. Well, as we do bring up the lap time history of Jordan Shamblin, there it is. And look at the delta that Jordan Shamblin has stripped out Jozowicz. If you exclude laps 17 and 18, over the last 3 laps, Shamblin on average has taken 3 tenths out of Jozowicz, and the pace is going in the hands of the Porsche driver. Well, this could get very interesting towards the end, because we've still got 15 minutes of racing plus the final lap to go. Jozowicz is into the pit lane here, so I think he's decided enough's enough. He's taking the car as far as he can, as that's been an error for the Simpsons Porsche in front that's gone around on pit lane entry. He's put it back together as the Porsche was they make the one down. What about Jordan Shamblin? Well, he's going to stay out there, and I think for the first time in a long time, if ever in the Top Split broadcast, I believe it's going to be his first lap he's led on the live TV as they roar the way down towards turn number 2, and as they do, well, Wesley Bryce is right there with him, but with all this form factor right now, that would mean, I'm putting a prediction out here, Matthias Beer will be leading this race when we do see those pit stops complete. And in fact, here is Beer making his way on through, and Jozowicz is still in the pits, and Matthias Beer has jumped him. Beer's up into 3rd, and now surely this has got to mean when we do see a change of the strategy in terms of what will be for Jordan Shamblin and Wesley Bryce. Beer's got to be leading by a comfortable margin. Timothy Parker Russell is out there. He's yet to pit, you pointed out. Daniel Jozowicz leaves the pit lane now, but look at that gap as he makes it out the pits. Now, I wonder if he's had a bit of a long stop. In fact, he has. He was stationary for a little bit longer compared to Beer by the best part of 1.5 seconds. So I think Jozowicz might have been fuel saving later in the day, but Beer has leapt him by 7 seconds over the course of the pit stop and the undercut. So Matthias Beer then causing a swing of 8 seconds as a result of strategy. That is a huge gain for the number 2 Ford GT, and this Ford right now could be most certainly on its way to victory, albeit there's a lot of time to go. Mistakes are easily made here at Laguna Seca, and therefore nothing is for certain until he does reach that checkered flag, or somebody reaches that checkered flag, where it's our leading Ford GT driver or another driver. Into the pits meanwhile come Shamblin and Bryce close together, so Shamblin has led a lap of racing today here at Laguna Seca as he makes way along. Bryce follows him on in, and it's been close between the two of them, and well, as they make the way down pit lane, nothing between them all the way to their stationary point as they come on through. Further back, we've got a little bit more going on here between Cordito Gallardo and Glenn Harrison behind, and Thomas Applin in front, as he comes down into a rainy curve. Three left-handers, Matthias Beer makes his way past Maconte booth window and confirms the fact he has now retaken the lead of this race. So Beer has effectively used strategy to leap his way on through. Jozovich also makes his way on down, so it will be Shamble and Bryce fighting over the final podium position. Wins the pits, there goes none other than Glenn Harrison. Meanwhile, Jose Caldito Gallardo stays on out because he has already served his pit stop. So that's a lovely run there from the BMW M8 driver to move his way up into 5th place. Will he take 4th? Well, we do have Bryce who's left the pit lane, so therefore Gallardo will be up into 5th now. So a good bit of strategy there from him. Pablo Garcia Alvarez is up into 6th as well, continuing to make his way forward. So all the pit stops have now been served for everybody minus this man, and that is Mike Wongsorostro. And we see the Ferrari driver coming down here, and I suspect he will duck to the pits this time. I don't think the Ferrari's got the fuel tank to do another lap, and our answer is given there as he makes his way into the pits. Well, that means now all strategy is played for, and it's going to now all be about who can make the moves out on circuit. Well, the fight for first place has definitely got a bit quiet, but hold up a second, this is a fight for third, which is suddenly going to feel very, very uncomfortable if your name's John Shamblin, because he's caught up behind traffic here, and here comes Wesley Bryce. Bryce is going to look around the outside. 2-1 the Corkscrew they go, and you can see Shamblin unhappy, and that's going to make him even unhappier as it's a tap from Bryce onto the rear of Shamblin. It sends John Shamblin round. He gets the car back together, but does he keep it straight down for the Corkscrew? Yes, he does, as the sparks fly from the under tray there. Gravel goes everywhere, and John Shamblin will be absolutely fuming at that, to be held up firstly by a car that's a lap down the former Alex Saez, and then with Wesley Bryce trying to use that to his advantage, Bryce going all in, and in a small tap sends Shamblin around, and Bryce carries on into third. Well, there might be some words between them after the racing, but I'm sure right now John will get his head down and focus on one thing, which is he's now got Jose Caldito Gallardo chasing after him for 4th place, and that gap, 3 seconds, it's not growing, it's shortening, not just because of the contact, but the fact that Shamblin right now has got a lot of gravel on his tyres, and he needs to try and get it off as quickly as possible, and that's going to cost him a lot of pace on the next lap. As the drivers make the way around and in towards another lap of racing. Well, we'll get a replay first of what happened there for Shamblin. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get it on board from Wesley Bryce's car? Yes, we can. And this was Bryce at the time. Now, what you'll see here, Bryce goes to the outside. Shamblin there. But here's the problem now. Sainz comes across. Bryce cuts down. He tries to get clear. But in the end, it taps Shamblin. I don't think there was any malice meant from Wesley Bryce. I think in the end, he was just trying to avoid the back of Sainz whilst going racing with Shamblin and just cut across a little bit too soon, as Shamblin was going to beat him under braking into the apex of the Corkscrew chicane. But the problem was, with the way he cut the car, he cut just slightly too early, about a fraction of a second too early, and that's what led to the contact between them and sent Bryce through and Shamblin all the way up onto the banking. But as we come back to your live pictures, well, there's still more to come here, as we have had a bit of an incident for Dan Bishop further back. That's put him all the way down to 12th place, I believe. And in fact, we've had Christophe Dubois make his way up into 9th, also Thomas Applin into 10th, Glenn Harrison into 11th. But can we get a replay of the story of what's happened to Dan Bishop, who was enjoying a good run for a top 10 finish? Yes, we can. And this is what happened to the number 9 Porsche, who was in 9th at the time, made his way up the hill, caught up behind a little bit of traffic there. The very, very interesting livery on the BMW M8, tucks up the inside into the Corkscrew chicane. Oh no, that's a big, big lock up there. You don't want that to happen. And I think, in fact, coming on a little bit too hard on the brakes, and with quite a bit of rear brake bias, the rear brakes unlocking before the fronts, and well, then the car going around, everyone doing very well to avoid the way with Dan Bishop, and Bishop in the end getting himself back points in the right direction, albeit losing 3 places for the price of one very eager mistake in towards the Corkscrew. But you can understand that he wanted to clear the traffic, and that would have been the car of Alexander Kumor. I believe that it was going up the inside of, but in the end, by coming in so razor sharp hot, all he did was serve to spin his race round and go a bit cold over the distance. But from a driver who's gone a little bit cold, and we look and try and get himself back on the heat map of the race, to drivers that continue to push onwards, we do look to the Ferrari hit of Dan Chilabert, and Chilabert right now continues to try and make his way a bit deeper into his top 15. In fact, he is 15th place at the moment, and he's in the fight to be the lead in Ferrari, because he's chasing after Mike Wongsorostro as they come down through Rainy and in towards turn number 10. And well, these two Ferraris, they've both got some war wounds on them, none more so than Chilabert's car after the lap 1 incident. As he comes in towards turn number 11, we can see they're closing up under braking into the turn 11 hairpin, if you will, or the right angle to left-hand corner. We should really say it's less of a hairpin because it doesn't loop back on itself necessarily, which, if you're ever wondering how a corner is described as a hairpin, imagine a hairpin that you would stick in your hair to hold your hair in a particular position. and in doing so, well, hairpins, what do? They loop 180 degrees back on themselves, and that's why a corner is known as a hairpin. So this is the Andretti hairpin at turn number 2. Just a little bit of context there as to what classified as a hairpin, in case you're ever curious. I decided to look it up the other day. But as we do see Gilbert make his way through turn number 3, we're drawing on around, Wong Solstro there, looking comfortable in these medium-speed corners, but in the low-speed corners, that's where he doesn't seem to be as happy as Dan in at the number 13, and we're on his way in towards the corner again. Wong Solstro weaving across the road there. I wonder whether perhaps he's got a bit of a steering issue and he's trying to see whether he can fix it on the fly as he makes his way out of the corner, weaving from side to side. And, well, Gilbert right now, I think will be questioning what on earth is going on in that Ferrari, unless he's having a bit of a fight with the car and the car's fighting back. I've never seen that before, but the Ferrari driver making his way up the rise. Well, as he does in towards the Corkscrew, let's come back to your race leader in the Ford GT. And we're an advantage now of 11 seconds. Well, Matthias Speer is controlling this race. He is currently one of only 2 drivers lapping in the 19s. The other is your 9th place runner in the number 1 Corvette of Christophe Dubois. But for the number 2 Ford of Matthias Speer, well, right now he's absolutely moving forward. And I can imagine after the racing today, well, he might live up to his surname there. And, well, I apologise, Matthias, if you get offended by this pun, but it's all been in good jest. And the fact he might be having a beer for what has been a phenomenal run of racing. As he roars his way in towards turn number 3 right now, well, the Ford GT driver will be only keeping things on the straight here and keeping things sober as long as he can all the way to the end of this race, because the Laguna Seca circuit, you step wide even slightly and it will swallow you up here, and it's not going to be a result that he wants to go astray. But further back in the hunt for 4th place, well, here is Cordito Gallardo, and the big question is, can he close up to John Shamblin in the closing stages? And the answer is yes, he can. Remember, of course, Shamblin did have that incident between himself and Wesley Bryce. That has done some damage to the car, and it has also overheated the tyres with a big slide into the gravel. So Shamblin will be off the pace compared to where he would like to be, but the number 6 is still doing well to hold him to 4th here. And, well, Gallardo on that last lap, half a second faster. I can imagine that Shamblin right now might be stealing himself for the fact, with 8 minutes left on the clock or thereabouts, plus a final lap. Well, if you do the quick mathematics here with where our race leader is, making his way through turn number 10 already, we are going to get, if my maths is correct, another 5 laps of racing with an average lap time of 1 minute 20 for our leaders. So it does mean that right now Shamblin might, if he can't break that gap open, he might have to go on the defensive here. And going defensive at Laguna Seca is a very rewarding prospect. And the fact this is not an easy circuit to overtake, it's not impossible. You've seen plenty of overtakes today. In fact, we've seen more overtakes here today than we did the last time we visited in what was season 1, albeit that's not to be rude about season 1. It was a BMW dominated round of racing. We had a lot of strategy and also we had some bold moves, and John Shamblin was in the grid there in the Porsche 911 RSR. He sticks with his car as he sticks it a little bit wide there coming out of turn number 11, and that's a big slide there. And well, if he is planning to show off for the fans, well, I think right now he'll be regretting it, because Gallardo is closing up, and in fact that gap he'd carved out for himself 1.2 seconds into turn 11 suddenly comes all the way down to 4 tenths, and the battle is on as they roar the way up for Andretti. Well, they come out that left-hander. Shamblin having a bit of a slide there, a bit of a happy car in terms of being tail happy is his Porsche 911 RSR, but the number 6 right now trying to sing to the song and dance and rhythm of the curves of California. And as he comes through turn number 4, one nice late apex there, mounting a sausage curve. That's going to send Gallardo out wide in the BMW. The front tyres are starting to let go a little bit on the German mark behind, but the leading German mark here has got quite a bit of oversteer on the rear, and that means that these 2 cars right now are not in the ideal place they want to be, and the drivers are going to need to manage it over the race distance. But that's the fun of these GT machines. They're very raw, they're very whistle. They do have what is traction control, but they do not have anti-lock braking systems. So therefore, as a driver, you've got to do quite a bit of modulating and a lot of horsepower at your fingertips, almost in the region of 600 horsepower, and a lot less downforce compared to their modern GT3 counterparts now. And as our drivers continue to roar their way around, well, they are going to have to really prove themselves to be master and mistress of machine. But looking at just in front, well, we've got this battle between the 2 Ferraris here, which our fight for 4th place is going to stagger onto, as we do briefly lose Gilbert, and then having come back from the ether, well, as they come out of the corner, you can see there Wong Solstro able to power away for now as they head across the timeline. 5 minutes left on the clock, plus the final lap here, and Wong Solstro going defensive as Gilbert down into the Andretti hairpin, and we can see it then the battle for 3rd starts to close up. Wong Solstro goes very deep, cuts back here, and Gilbert follows him, but the fight for 4th is now practically going to be full steam ahead, as Shamblin's going to be the first to come onto this traffic in front, and right now he's going to be absolutely fuming. He got caught out early on with Alex Saez into the Corkscrew, and now he's going to find 2 Ferraris here that have got a mind of their own in terms of their battle, and well, he's got to try and carve his way through. He's going to absolutely get a huge tow here of a Shilabir coming in towards turn number 5. Go up the inside. Shilabir having to back off, but look at this. Gallardo immediately says, okay, Jordan, you make the path for me and I'll follow you through. But now Shamblin pulls the outside and we're going to see Wong Sorosho pulls the inside there into turn 6. There's contact and that's going to send Shamblin slightly wide and Wong Sorosho not letting the Porsche driver on through, and frustration building here as he covers off that inside line, and you can see backing off is Gallardo. He doesn't want to get caught up as Wong Sorosho goes defense under braking, goes very deep, and Shamblin's going to cut back and through, but Gallardo now comes on down, and Wong Sorosho definitely not seeing the blue flags the way he wants to, and this is going to frustrate the lead lap drivers, and that's going to give Shamblin all the breathing room he needs here. That gap's already up to 1 second, and now the BMW driver of Condito Gallardo's got to try and be brave on the brakes here. At some point it looks one way, looks the other, goes all in on the brakes into turn 11, and as he does so, well, too wide they enter, and the Ferrari driver goes deep. That's going to enable Shilabir to get up the inside, and now after they do clear Wong Sorosho on the lead lap, it's going to be the fight of the Ferraris, but the problem is Shilabir hasn't got the pace out the corner. That's going to tuck him right back behind the leading Ferraris. They come down towards turn number 2, and as they go onto the brakes, well, that's going to be it in terms of that battle for now, albeit you can imagine the two Ferraris may go toe-to-toe again for 14th place a little bit later on. But from them, looking up to 6th place runner Timothy Parker Russell, he's got Pablo Garcia Alvarez coming up the back of him here, and Alvarez looking in fact quite close as they make their way down to Andretti. And it looks as though Parker Russell might be trying to nurse some tyre temperatures and some front brake temperatures there, because the car is very tiptoe based as he made his way into turn number 2. It doesn't look like a car he's very happy with right now in terms of the way it's handling. Oh, a big slide there coming out turn number 3. He definitely right now is running on rims in terms of tyre life, and as he comes out the corner, that Corvette's definitely been pushed to the limit. As further back, well, we do have a battle between Riley Pogue and Christophe Dubois, and these two absolutely nose the town. Dubois trying to make his way back ahead of Pogue after the pit stops, and well, these two drivers, two Corvette drivers who have been absolutely brilliant in their battling with other drivers, and now they're going to go too wide into turn number 5. Will Pogue's going to defend the inside? What can Dubois do here? He'll cut back on around as we ride on board. And the 9th place runner in the number 1 Corvette, the highest I rating driver of them all here, I believe his I rating being 5,842, a very high I rating, as he makes his way up the rise. Here we go, looking to the outside, but in the end, Pogue covers him off, puts in the middle of the road. Dubois stays right behind as they come on down the hill. A little bit of tap to the rear between the Corvettes, but some paint shed, nothing more, nothing less. And as they come in towards turn number 9, well, through a rainy curve they go. Dubois runs out a bit wide, but he brings it back together. He's got some off tracks to use if he needs to. And as he comes out that right-hander, runs wide again. With Dubois right now absolutely attacking the circuit, but for everything he can throw at Pogue, Riley Pogue simply says, you're going to need to be a bit more inventive, Christophe, because I know what you're trying to do, as they head onto what for them will be 3 laps remaining. And across that timeline, where is our leader? Our leader's making his way through the corkscrew at the moment, and down they go then in towards Andretti, and as they come through, we have had the Ferrari of Wong Sorosho recently make its way out the pit lane. You can see it there in the corner of the camera, and as he makes one out there, runs a bit deep coming out the pit lane, so he's going to rejoin and lose some more places for his misdemeanor. And well, right now the fight for 8th place really firmly centered on our screen, and looking again is Dubois, but as we ride on board looking back from the rear of the Napa Corvette, we're heading in towards turn number 5, and here he comes, the Cube machine looking around the outside. Can he get the move done here too wide through the corner? And the answer is no, he can't, because Pogue will let the car intentionally run deep there off of Apex. He's allowed to, so long as he doesn't make contact, and he's forcing Dubois to have to once again try and cut back, try and really force that Corvette around the outside. And that's the one thing you can't do at Laguna Seca, is make a move around the outside unless you have got a nose ahead before you get to the corner apex. But right now it's not coming forward, but Dubois says, okay, I'm going to go for it, but then goes straight on into the gravel track for the corkscrew, and well, that's a little bit of frustration there, but you can understand Dubois wanted to go for it, and in the end, Riley Pogue just out-braking his rival enough on previous laps to force Dubois to have to go all in on the commitment, and the number 1 Corvette is reset back behind, but brilliant battling between them. More to come. It's fair and firm racing here, and credit where it's due to Dubois. He's absolutely throwing everything at it, and also pushing it to the limit, and understanding when it goes beyond the limit, he can't go any further, and in the end, they now make their way down the start-finish straight, but up the inside he goes for the Kinker 1, and it's going to put Dubois on the inside for Andretti, and now Pogue says, okay, I surrender for now, at least I can't push this fight any further. Further back, we do have the battle there between Dan Hawthorne in the BMW, and that's Mike Wonsorosto up the inside, so he'll take 16th place after making his trip to the pit lane only moments ago, so they swap places as well, and as they come on through, well, meanwhile, we come back to your race leader here in good timing, because he goes on to his final lap of racing, and what will be lap number 34, and 34 will be turned within the 35 minutes, the 45 minutes. Let's get our race distance correct. As he comes down towards turn number 2, with a 14-second gap right now, Matthias Beer in the Ford GT is absolutely running away with this, and is clearly the one of only a limited number of drivers lapping in the 19s. The only other one at the moment is Jose Caldito Gallardo, and well, for Matthias Beer, it's one lap between him and victory. Speaking of Gallardo, well, he's recently made his way on through in towards turn number 11, and he's got Jordan Shamblin still right in front of him. No change between these two. Shamblin holding on to the 4th place spot here, and as he does so, coming across the line, was exchanged Wesley Bryce for a brilliant battle with Gallardo, but can he hold on for one more lap? He will have seen the white flag wave. He'll know that there is the final lap, and Gallardo will know it as well. And now it really is going to be do or die between these two. The Porsche holds the position in front, but for Calito Gallardo, it's all going to be about, can he get a little bit more out of that BMW that definitely has got some heavily worn front tyres, but those rear tyres will also be worn as well. But the one nice thing about this BMW, it does even out the tyre wear a little bit compared to its rivals. Albeit not like that when he runs wide. A flash of lights there, he won't be too happy with running wide, and therefore trying to use that to distract as much as possible, but make no distractions out on circuit here, because as we do see our leader make his way through, there's been a bit of drama there for Sanchez Dominguez, but for Matthias Beer, he heads into the final corner, and what a drive it's been. He pitted early, he went for the undercut, he leapt his way into lead, and by 14 seconds, Matthias Beer takes victory at Laguna Seca in week number 10 of the 2025 Season 2 campaign, and it will then be a sizable gap before we do get to our second place finisher. Begin with a round of applause. He started on pole, but second is where he'll finish. Daniel Zazovic, who didn't have the race pace of Beer, but what he did have was the consistency to finish second in a comfortable margin. And then it'll be 11 seconds back to Wesley Bryce, who rounds off the podium there in a slightly wounded Corvette, but he'll take the final spot on the podium ahead of Jordan Shamblin, who makes it 4 manufacturers in the top 4 spots, and he holds on to 4th in a brilliant drive. The number 6 Porsche holds off Jose Caldito Gallardo, who takes 5th, and then we do have in 6th place, give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as well, because for Timothy Parker Russell, what a drive from him. In the number 4, he started 11th, and he's going to finish in 6th place. He made his way through, and with Pablo Garcia Alvarez keeping him honest all the way, well, that's how they finish. 6th and 7th for these two. We've got more to come as Christophe Dubois, I think, has found his way past Riley Pogue. What's happened to Pogue? He's disappeared. Oh, there's Pogue in the rear of the picture. I think there's a story there. We'll try and get that at the end, but Dubois and him will take 8th place after a bit of drama early on. We'll then have Thomas Appelin, who will finish 9th place, picking up a place right at the end. With Glenn Harrison right behind the 2 Porsche drivers. They'll finish inside the top 10. They both deserve that. Very well done to them. Heartbreak for Riley Pogue with that race starting in that saw him go around at turn number 3, where it's all gone backwards as Dan Bishop will take 12th place, and that will finish your lead lap running order. Whereas our drivers all make the way on down their cool-down laps, alternative toe to the pits. What happened to Riley Pogue on the final lap is the question, and here's the replay. So this was Dubois versus Pogue. Into turn number 10 they went. Now, was there contact between the two of them? Into the brakes they went. Pogue cuts across there, tap to the rear of the car of Pogue, and well, in the end, car getting stuck there. Now, does he just simply miss his gearbox? A small tap, it sends Pogue onwards, and will then reverses, holds the car there for a moment, and in the end we saw Pogue going around, or in the end he did get it going, and that explains what happened to Riley Pogue. Well, for Dubois, I believe it might have just been a bit of a close run under brake, and we look back from the rear of Pogue's car here, and I don't think there was any malice meant. You knew that Pogue was going to go defensive as hard as possible to the inside, and just taps him slightly on the rear there. It's a very small tap, but it sends Pogue onwards. You can see that by how much he travelled, and I'm sure they will talk about it after the race, ladies and gentlemen. And well, I think Dubois and Pogue, they're just racing hard, racing fair, and well, at the same time as well, it didn't quite go right for either of them today. Well, more to come, of course, in future weeks. But with that, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. For week number 10 of the 2025 Season 2 campaign in the iRacing GTE official Sprint Series, the top split broadcast, of course, from your 1900 GMT or UTC slot on Friday, the 23rd of May, 2025. So Matthias Beer start from second place and finish your winner for Melazani Racing by a staggering 13 seconds over Daniel Jazovic. The German driver in the end in the Ford GT, maximising the strengths of the Ford whilst minimising its weaknesses. And for Jazovic, he had the pace in qualifying, a brilliant pole position lap by the best part of almost 800s. But when it came down to the race pace, he didn't quite have enough in the tank, the Lithuanian driver, but still a brilliant runner-up finish in the number 10. Wesley Bryce, third place there. The Corvette driver delivering well from the US of A, and with his fellow countrymen just finishing behind him in their scrap, which in the end didn't quite go the way they wanted it to between the two of them, and I'm sure they'll talk about it afterwards with the altercation between them and Alex Saez into the Corkscrew. But still, Bryce third, Jordan Shamblin fourth on the road, and for Shamblin, despite the difficulty fighting his way to fourth, I think he can give himself a big pat on the back about that one once he's cooled down in the debrief room. Still, for Shamblin, a fourth place there, and 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 spots. We have never seen this in all the top split broadcasts so far. GTE is absolutely live right now, and it's fantastic to see it. With Jose Gallardo there, 5th place, as we do say hello to him in the YouTube chat there. I believe that's Jose Cordito Gallardo, and good evening to you, Jose, and great racing from yourself. As you say there, what an amazing race, and indeed it was. 5th place for you, ahead of Timothy Parker Russell there, who finished 6th, a solid drive for the number 4 driver. Pablo Alvarez in 7th, or Pablo Garcia Alvarez, as we should call him by his full name, ahead of Christophe Dubois, who in the end took 8th on the road, and I'm sure he'll have a little chat between himself and Riley Pogue as to what happens there in the final corner. But Christophe Dubois in the end didn't quite have things go the way he wanted to, but he did well to recover and fight back to the top 10 for Cube Racing. Thomas Applen, 9th there for the Flanders racing team. The Belgian driver had a great long-term race scrap between himself and Glenn Harrison, but in the end it was only one of the 2 Porsche drivers who could finish in 9th, and it was Applen, with Harrison taking the final spot in the top 10, and Riley Pogue, heartbreak after a brilliant qualifying session, ended up falling all the way down the order with the instant in turn number 3 on the open lap. Recovered well, however, and that's the one thing that has to be said about the Napa Racing Corvette. Did a phenomenal job to fight back. Didn't quite work out for a top 10 finish today, but still, I think he'll come away from this one knowing that he's learned a lot with the car, and he'll take it forward into next week. Dan Bishop was 12th, and he'll be the last of the lead lap finishers, with a lap down to Max Chambers in the number 3 in 13th, ahead of Dan Chilabert, who finally found his way to be the winning Ferrari out of the Ferraris out there in 14th, ahead of Alex Saez in the Simpsons Porsche. Didn't quite work out for him, but then the final lap down drives with Dan Horfin, the BMW M8, in his brilliant battle with Mike Wantanostro, and he managed to win that one. And between the two of them, Alexander Kumar, who finished 17th. Then we did have Wang Soestro 3 laps down there in 18th, ahead of Eduardo. I believe there that being Eduardo Sanchez Dominguez, and your top 20 was rounded off by Jose Carlos Campodinilco. But that wasn't all your finishing order, because we also did have some early retirements, and it was early retirements for Jose Martins. Unfortunate for him after a brilliant qualifying session, but it all went wrong on the opening lap and later on in the race as well. Marco Giuliani, also for Christian Skulhaven, and Branislav Holika, who didn't make it onto the grid in the end due to technical issues, and therefore 24th was classified, but a non-finish in the book. So 24 starters, ladies and gentlemen, and a grand total of 20 finishes, of which 12 on the lead lap. But that brings all of our racing in the United States, at least for now, to a close. We will be coming back to the US of A in our final week, of course, but we've got a little bit of a way to go before we do come back to our final week, which will, of course, be at the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle. But as Laguna Seca falls silent and the sun shines in California, all there's for us to do, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is say thank you very much for tuning in. But, of course, we've still got 2 more weeks to go in the iRacing official GTE Sprint Series, and next week, we make our way to Europe. We make our way to the beating heart of European motorsport. We make our way to the Green Hell. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it will be time for our drivers to take on the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke or the Nürburgring combined. And in week number 11, we won't be viewing our regular time slot on Friday due to scheduling, but we will be tuning into all the top split racing action from the 1900 GMT or UTC slot on Wednesday, the 28th of May, 2025. You've got to believe there to believe how it all goes down on the longest circuit in the world and the longest one on our calendar for this season. But until then, we have been the iRacing official GT Sprint Series. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe, stay smiling, stay positive, and if you are having a bank holiday weekend this weekend, like in the United Kingdom, but I don't know how it applies around the world, we'll have a fantastic extended weekend. And if you don't have a bank holiday weekend, it's just a normal weekend, have a great weekend all the same. And remember, most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.